When it comes to getting athletic or improving current athleticism, it's really simple. And in this video, I'm going to give you a key concept to get there. Once you understand this concept, you'll never look at performance or practice or training the same again. Growing up for me, sports were an amazing thing. I played sports to have fun. I played sports to compete. I played sports to win. Played with my friends constantly, outside, inside, at the gym, wherever we could play, we would do it. Any organized sports were mainly through our school. And when I played sports for my school team, it was competitive. Every practice, I was trying to win every drill, every line drill even in practice. So when I was at a practice, I was working my butt off. There was kind of an athletic caste system back then. So there wasn't this thought process that you could really improve. So there wasn't a whole lot of personal practice, right? Where I would just go to the park by myself and practice. Were there kids that did that? Absolutely. But I would say that was probably the minority versus the majority. Most athletes, this is the late 90s, early 2000s, we just played. We showed up to practice, and you were either one of the good athletes, middle of the road, or a bad athlete. And there was no thought process that could be changed. It just wasn't even a concept. Because we were just showing up, this system stood. So if you were one of the good athletes, middle of the road, or bad athletes, you stayed as that designation. You couldn't move inside the system. The athletes knew the system, and the coaches knew the system. The coaches knew who was good and who wasn't, and who was going to be playing and who wasn't. And that still carries through today. But back then, there was no hope that there was going to be any improvement. It was a very fixed mindset system that we used to work with. And there wasn't a whole lot of personal practice. There wasn't a whole lot of, let me go work on my specific game. I remember I would go, if I had a tryout or something coming up, I might go and work on my shot or a little bit, might work on my layup package, but I didn't have this desire or this idea that through personal practice, I could really improve. It was just, I am what I am, they are what they are, we all show up to practice, and the best man wins. That's kind of what the thought process was. Versus today, we know that we can improve upon our game. We have all this information now. We can improve on pretty much any aspect of our sport, whether that be soccer, baseball. In baseball, we have pitching machines, and we have facilities where you can go work and get analytics on any part of your game. So there's a ton more personal practice that's happening now. So the first concept you have to understand is you can improve. You need to have a growth mindset. This video is not for that. But you have to know that you can improve by putting in personal practice on yourself. That's personal development inside of your sport. The key concept that I want to cover today, and one that if you can grasp this concept, it can literally change everything. And the concept is LTP, which stands for long-term potentiation. Long-term potentiation is a persistent strengthening of the synapses that enables a long-lasting increase in synaptic transmission in a neural network. Now, I know that sounds super technical, but really what that all boils down to is repetition. So in your brain, you have neurons, you have neural networks. And we know that through neuroplasticity, our brain changes as we do certain activities, as we do any activity. Our brain is constantly changing. And what drives behavior and what drives your actions and your movements is the connections between different neurons. So if I were to grab this cup and pick it up, that's an action. Now, when I was a baby, it would have been a lot harder peripherally to grab it, even find it, and then grasp it, and then pick it up. There's a lot of neural activity happening because the neurons connected to make that activity happen weren't really formed yet. The connections weren't strong. The more I picked things up, the more I picked up specific cups, the more I picked up anything, the neurons connected. Neurons that fire together wire together. And the wiring of these activities and these actions is what leads to long-term potentiation. Repetition, simple repetition of activities is what actually increases and improves our ability to do them. And really, athletes today aren't doing enough activities to improve themselves, or they're not doing the right activities. When we watch a sport, when we see a sport, when we think about how we should be preparing our sport, our first thought is to go right to the body. This is what we see out on the field or on the court or on the track. We see the body, we see the movements of the body, but we have to understand it's all in here. The body is only moving because of the structures and the neural networks that have already been established up here. So you can do as much as you want to the body, but you have to understand that when you do something to the body, you're doing something to the brain. And if you think brain first, body second, you can train a whole lot smarter. If I want to be able to throw a ball and catch a ball, I need repetitions of that. I need to have the strongest connection between the neurons to be able to do that specific activity in a lot of different variations. So I need to spend a lot of time doing that. I need to spend hours and get thousands of repetitions to really improve that, instead of spending hours and hours doing something else, hoping that it will improve that. You can supplement an action, increasing strength, watching people throwing heavier objects, right? Something that's close to the action, but not specifically the action. But we need to strengthen the neural connection of that specific activity. It's the same thing with running. If you want to be faster and you're not running, you're not actually strengthening those specific neural connections. You haven't hit the stone enough times. People are waiting for the stone to break, and they've hit it 10 times, 20 times, not realizing they need to hit it thousands of times to actually get faster. So instead, they turn to other quick fixes, thinking that those things, and those things can impact like speed or your ability. But what's really going to make you get faster is the actual long-term potentiation, doing the actual thing over and over so that your brain can actually work for you. It can actually do the work. The neural connections can get stronger. You literally become more efficient at doing something by doing it over and over and over again. A great quote from Jim Watkins: "A river cuts through rock, not because of its power, but because of its persistence." And just the same way as you persist in a specific activity, there's grooves that are being cut through your brain to make that connection stronger, to make that activity more efficient, more smooth, better. You don't even understand what potential you can get to because you haven't done the activity enough. It's such a cool process. It makes so much sense. When you start doing something new, like trying to hit a volleyball and you're horrible at it, your brain says, "Hey, we're not gonna get good at this yet. We're not even gonna allow you to be good at this because you haven't done enough repetitions." But the more you repeat that activity, the more you do it over and over and over again, your brain will start working towards you getting more efficient. And then all of a sudden, there's this moment where everything clicks into place. And then you forget how bad you were at the beginning. You can't even remember how bad you were because you've done enough repetitions to get to that next level where that process is automated. Most of the best athletes, most of the athletes that are playing at the professional level, I saw an Instagram post the other day where this coach is showing like Damian Lillard. You want to be able to move like Damian Lillard, and then he shows like a lifting, like a single leg squat. And then you want to be able to jump like Russell Westbrook, and then he shows like another lifting. And it's like, I can guarantee you those guys didn't do any of those things growing up. I guarantee it. Most likely they were outside on a playground playing 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 5-on-5, 21 knockout, getting repetitions of basketball. And genetics absolutely come into play. 1,000%. But not just physical genetics, but also personality types, driven personality type. We have all sorts of factors that layer into these things. But you can still stack the deck in your favor just by understanding this concept of long-term potentiation. If you just do the thing that most closely correlates to what you're actually trying to do, you just do repetitions of it. It's really that simple. People are complicating this thing, and it's absolutely insane. But until you know this stuff about your brain, it's hard to even understand or know what you should be doing. So if you look at your sport, let's say your sport is soccer. What are they doing on the soccer field? They're doing a lot of touches with the ball. So you better be getting a ton of repetitions. Just kick the ball against the wall and then pass it back. But people don't do that because it's boring. So instead, people go and try to just make their legs stronger. You need to touch the ball. You need to have hundreds of thousands of touches on the ball, passing to a friend, passing to a wall, receiving the ball, kicking the ball hard, kicking the ball soft, settling the ball. These things are all adding up in your brain to make you better at that movement. It'll be just like tying your shoes. Do you ever have to think about tying your shoes? No, because at the beginning you couldn't even come close to tying your shoes. And as a parent, I know this. I see this with my kids. I'm like, this kid's never going to be able to tie their shoes. And then after like a year, they're tying their shoes. And then after 8 years, we don't even think about tying our shoes. I don't even think about my son tying his shoe now because he just knows how to do it because he's gotten the repetitions. Right? So if you're a soccer player, you better spend a lot of time touching the ball. One of the hidden pieces of the sport is the athletic piece, cutting. Soccer players are cutting, they're balancing. So you need to spend time on movement. You need to spend time cutting and running. You need to look at how are you running. You need to get all those reps of running over and over again. Your running will improve. Your running will get better. Your running will get more efficient because you're going to start identifying, why am I running slow? Why is this hurting my knees when I run like this? And then you can start pinpointing these things and improving them. But it all comes through repetition because until you start to repeat an action, you're not even giving the neurons in your brain enough time to connect. This can be a life-changing concept for you, not just in sports, but in anything that you do. If you can really grasp how important this is, get your reps, and get your reps as close as possible to the thing that you're actually doing as you can. If you don't know where to start, the best place to start is the fundamentals. If you start at the fundamentals, you can work your way up. The fundamentals are going to be like a tree trunk, and they will eventually grow and they will eventually branch out. And then you can start getting into more specific and detailed things. So if you don't know where to start at the fundamentals. But repetition is the key. Repetition, repetition, repetition. This is what gets you actually to the next level. This is what the most elite are actually doing. And most of the time, they're doing it without even knowing it. Appreciate you sticking around for the entire video. Hope that all makes sense to you. If it doesn't, repeat the video and then repeat it again because at some point this will click and this concept is very important. If you don't understand athletic habits, check out our video on athletic habits. We break that down of how important athletic habits are and why athleticism is actually a skill in itself. Make sure to subscribe down below, like this video. We appreciate you being here. We'll catch you on the next one.